Hey there, my name is Omar Pinto. I'm the host of the Recovery Revolution, and I'm super excited to be able to participate in this year's Family Recovery Conference. Big shout out to Shelly and Pam. You guys are awesome. I recently had Shelly and Pam on the Recovery Revolution podcast, and their episode is going to be going out around the same time that this conference is going out, so it's perfect timing. Anyway, when I had them on the show, they were telling me about the online conference, and I said, I would love to participate. So what can I do? Right. So one of the questions that I ask in my podcast. So first of all, before I go there, my name is Omar Pinto. For those of you that don't know me, I'm the host of the Recovery Revolution podcast. It is a podcast that it's next level recovery. It was originally called the Share Podcast. And when I started diving stronger into personal development, I made this shift from recovery into personal development. I started to combine what I learned in recovery with personal development. So I went from the Share Podcast, which was spelled SHAIR, which stands for Sharing Helps Addicts in Recovery, to the Recovery Revolution to incorporate my new mindset and philosophy about recovery. I really feel that there's a dramatic and dynamic change that needs to take place in recovery. And I thought that would be the perfect name. So I started combining personal development, entrepreneurship, mindset, addiction recovery. So my guests on the show focus on different aspects of empowerment. And so one of the questions that I ask in the Recovery Revolution when I'm interviewing my guests is, what is the story that you used to tell yourself, your biggest limiting beliefs? And what is the story that you tell yourself now? So as a coach, I come across people all the time that say, oh, I could never do this. I can't do that. I can't stop drinking because I can't leave this toxic relationship because I can't quit my job because. And these are all just stories. So the question really is, where did these stories come from? So they said, wow, that would be a great topic to discuss in our family recovery conference. So I was like, all right, so I'll put something together for you guys. Let's get a deeper understanding of what limiting beliefs are. So limiting beliefs, what is a story that you are telling yourself? Okay, so here are some examples of what a limiting belief is. What is a limiting belief? It is our internal self-dialogue. It is programming we pick up from role models. It comes from experienced events, root causes. It's an alert to danger. It's a learned belief system designed to protect you. It's a way to avoid pain or seek pleasure. So let's start off with the internal dialogue. This is the one that says, I can't do this, I shouldn't do this, I should do this. For example, boys don't cry. Girls don't sit that way. Where does that belief system come from? Well, typically it comes from programming we pick up from role models. So our mothers, our fathers. I remember when I was 16 years old, I had my very first girlfriend, and my dad thought I was too young to have a girlfriend. So he told me, you got to break up with her. You've got to break up with that girl. She's no good for you. You don't have time for that. You got to focus on your studies. Plus, you're setting a bad example for your sisters. So now, I mean, just imagine this story that's building in my mind. Well, I go to school the next day and I break up with my girlfriend. And I come back home and I am just devastated. I go to my room and I just burst into tears. A little while later, my dad comes into my room and he's like, what's wrong with you? What are you doing? Oh, Dad, I broke up with my girlfriend. I'm so sad. He's like, stop your crying. Boys don't cry. You should be focusing on more important things than your girlfriend, which moves us down to point number 3. This is an experienced event, a root cause event. So now moving forward, what is the story that I am telling myself? Boys don't cry. So if boys don't cry, men don't cry. Where did I pick that up from? My father, who is my role model. What's the dialogue that I'm going to have moving forward for my children? It's boys don't cry. Or if anyone else around me is crying, it's like, man up. What are you crying about? It's an alert to danger. So if I start crying, what does that mean? It means I'm going to be perceived as weak because boys don't cry. Danger, danger. So I learned not to cry to protect myself. So it's a learned system designed to protect you. I won't cry. That way I won't be perceived weak. I won't be criticized. And the final point is to avoid pain or seek pleasure. And in most cases, what you'll find with limiting beliefs, that more than seeking pleasure, you're avoiding pain. So here's some examples of limiting beliefs and the dialogue associated with these beliefs. I can't, I don't, I'm not good at, I could never, I should, I only. And again, when I'm coaching someone and I hear one of these limiting beliefs come out of my client's mouth, I really should be a better mother. And I'll ask them, well, what is that based on? And whose voice is that anyway? And a lot of times they'll say, whose voice is that? Well, it's my voice. How long have you had that voice? And when was the first time you heard that voice? My mother. As we go a layer deeper, what you're going to find is that somewhere along the lines, I learned to say all of these things from a role model, from a parent, from a teacher, from a cousin, from an uncle, from an aunt. Nobody's born saying, I can't do this. I don't do that. I'm not good at this. I could never. I should. I only. No, when we're born and we're babies, give me, I want. Give me, I want. Very clear. As babies, we're super clear about what we want. I want the new G.I. Joe toy. No, you can't have that. We can't afford it. 30 years later, you're sitting at a grocery store with your kids, and they're like, hey, can I get this toy? No, you can't have that. We can't afford it. These are pre-programmed autoresponders that we have inside of us that are called limiting beliefs. So now you've got a good understanding of what limiting beliefs are, right? This dialogue that's going on in your head, the story that you're telling yourself, where it came from, where I learned it from. So now I'm going to just give you a couple of stories about where my limiting beliefs came from. What were the stories I was telling myself, my biggest limiting beliefs, and what is it that I believe now? And for me, it started when I was a kid. My dad was a bit of a bully. He was a man's man. He was really tough. He ran the house with an iron fist. We used to call him the warden. And we would never question our father. So as a child, my father was my role model. Now, I was the oldest of 3 children. I was the eldest. I had 2 younger sisters. So when I was a kid, my dad sat me down and he says, it's your job to protect your sisters. So that was my responsibility. Other than that specific direction, that specific order, which was you're responsible for taking care of your sisters, for protecting your sisters, there was really no further instruction from there. Like, how do I protect my sisters? Like, what do I do in case there's a situation, a confrontation where I actually have to protect or defend my sisters? So I just kind of took it on as like, oh, okay, well, my dad considers me a man, right? So he's telling me that I should take care of my sisters, or it's my responsibility. Okay, great. So it actually felt good at the time that my dad was trusting me with that responsibility. Well, lo and behold, I'm about 8 years old. Kids picking on my sister on the playground. And my sister comes to me and says, hey, Omar, there's this kid picking on me. So immediately I'm like, oh, triggered, right? It's my job to go protect my sisters. So I immediately run over to find out what's going on with this kid. And I get up in his face and I'm like, hey, listen, you need to stop messing with my sister. You need to leave her alone. And the kid punches me in the stomach. Doesn't say a word. He just punches me in the stomach. I drop to the ground. Right? I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. I was terrified. Now, I don't know how many of you that are listening right now have actually been punched in the stomach. Do you even know what it feels like to be punched in the stomach? It is horrible. When you get the wind knocked out of you, you literally, it's like it takes my breath away, right? I could not breathe. I'm on the ground just, I didn't know if I was going to get it back, right? It's terrifying. I still remember this. I mean, this was such a traumatic root cause event for me. I didn't even realize how deeply rooted it was until my 40s, but it just carried on. Obviously, I didn't want to talk about it. It's super embarrassing. And as soon as I could catch my breath, I ran to the principal's office and I told on this kid, right? So I was like, hey, this kid, he's picking on my sister and he punched me in the stomach and blah, blah, blah. And they call in his parents. They call in my parents. There's this, like, we all meet in the principal's office. So it's his parents, the kid, my parents, me, my sister. And this kid now has to apologize to my sister and I. And I think he got suspended or something for being a bully. So in that moment, a lot happened. Like there's this funny kind of cool little ridiculous kind of scary sort of anecdotal sort of story about me being 8 years old and getting punched in the stomach and getting bullied. But the fact of the matter is I was traumatized. Okay. This is a root cause event. Prior to going into this, I was trusted with a responsibility. It's your job to take care of your sister. And I can't do it. I failed. This kid punches me in the stomach. So it stops being me being the hero and me being trusted by my dad to me being a failure, being weak, scared, strong, small, a victim, right? I turned into a victim in that moment. Like up until that moment, up until that day, I didn't know how to be afraid. Up until that moment, I didn't know how to be afraid. I'm going to repeat that again. Up until that moment, I did not know how to be afraid. I did not know how to say no to my father. I did not learn how to ask how. Like, it's your job to take care of your sisters. How am I supposed to do that, Dad? I'm 8 years old. I weigh 50 pounds. Like, is there some kind of manual? Is there some kind of rule? Is there some kind of manual or book? Am I going to get some kind of class in defending myself and defending my sister? I didn't ask any of those questions. So you roll into a situation assuming that you're just going to know how to figure things out. And what happened was in that story, what was created was a limiting belief. You're weak. You're scared. You're small. You can't defend your sister. You can't defend yourself. You're a failure. And if you're not careful, this is going to happen again. So, for example, I'm sitting here right now recording this video with you and my head's up, shoulders back, chest is out, right? I'm speaking strongly into the camera, right? All that shit's gone. But from that moment on, I went from standing like this because when I walked up to that kid, I said, hey, stop messing with my sister. There's a posture associated with that. From that posture, it became shoulders down, head down, chest in, try not to be noticed. I came to school the next day looking to avoid people, looking to not be seen, not be noticed. And for those of you that have been there before, you do not get unseen. You do not disappear. Kids that walk around like that are targets for bullies. So for the next 8 years, I was a target for bullies. I was picked on, bullied, made fun of. Constant calls from school. Omar's being picked on again. You're going to have to come back down. I remember, getting my lunch money stolen from me. And my dad was just exhausted from hearing it. But I was terrified. I was like, okay, I'd rather just get picked on and bullied for that moment and hope that they just go away and leave me alone at some point than me actually stand up for myself and get punched in the stomach. It was crazy. For 8 years, this is what held on. So when I was 16 years old, I went to my first house party, had my first drink, had my first bit of alcohol, and all of a sudden, the fear was gone. Like, immediately. Like, I was in a social setting surrounded by a bunch of people, half of which I did not know, very intimidated, very scared when I first walked in. After finishing my first beer, it's like I'd been doing this my whole life. I'm laughing, I'm telling jokes, I'm just walking to every person and having a conversation, introducing myself. Like, that's my natural state. I am outgoing, I'm energetic, right? I am extroverted, I'm loud, right? I'm dynamic, I take over a room, I'm an entertainer. And I've been repressing that for 8 years, telling myself, no, we can't do that. We're risking getting hurt. Okay, we don't play sports. We don't play football for sure, right? We don't wrestle. Are you crazy? No. We don't join the band because those are band geeks. Story after story after story of things you can't do because there's a potential that you could be beat up, made fun of, or get hurt. Avoiding pain. Then you start drinking. Then I start drinking alcohol. It's all gone away. It disappears. And it's a new voice that comes in my head. Oh my God, really? All I needed was alcohol for all this fear to go away, for me to feel confident, for me to feel a part of and included. And from that moment on, I was set. From now on, I drink alcohol, right? And I looked for every opportunity that there was to go out with my friends, to party, to meet girls, right? Now I can meet girls because now I had confidence. I had the liquid courage inside of me. The little voice inside of me was like, dude, now that we've got alcohol inside of us, we are confident. Let's go talk to that girl there. Wow, she's cute, man. Just go talk to her. There's no fear. Let's go, right? Standing next to some guy, right? Now, here's the deal. Here's the thing. Now, for those of you that have heard the term repression or suppression, when you push down feelings and emotions, suppress them, what I had been repressing for many, many years was anger, bitterness, and resentment. My outward exterior presence was that of weak, scared, and small. But when you're weak, scared, and small and get picked on and bullied, you get angry. I'm mad at my dad. I'm mad at the school. I'm mad at the kids. I'm mad at God. I'm mad at the world. You know, I was angry. Like I hated going to school. I hated myself. You know, I hated my environment. I was constantly in a state of fear at all times. But I was angry about that. So what happens is that as the alcohol makes me feel, allows me to tap into my authenticity, which is my gregarious personality, which you see before you today. Instead, what it was doing was, as I drank more and more, as the years went on, right, that anger and bitterness and resentment just started to surface. And I became a bully. And now the voice was like, that guy over there is giving you a dirty look. That guy just said something. What did you mean by that? Are you insulting me? What was that? I became that guy. I remember there was times where people would be like, dude, I didn't say anything, man. Like, seriously, what's your problem? I'm like, my problem? I'm not the one giving dirty looks. I'm not the one talking trash. Huh? What's your problem? You want to step outside? Like, I was that guy. I was picking fights. I was getting into fights, right? I became that guy. My friends would be like, oh no, there he goes again. And I remember my friends would be like, dude, why do you have to drink so much? Like, when you have a couple of drinks, you're the best guy ever. After like third or fourth drink, you're a jerk. You're picking fights. You're talking. You're insulting people. Dude, you insult people like horrifically. Where does that come from? Right? It's a new story. It's my turn now. Huh? How do you like that? I'm in control now. I'm the bully now. And so there is this dialogue associated with this belief system that now that I have alcohol in my system, I can now defend myself. I can now stand up for myself. Now people are going to know what it's like. Like, I remember that for much of my life, it became about getting justice. It was about getting justice for that 8-year-old kid that was picked on and bullied. And he was angry and he was hurt and he didn't know what to do. And now all of a sudden, this new alter ego steps in. And the limiting belief is now that I am now a bully. And this is what I'm doing now. Now it's like, I believe that it's my turn to be a bully. It's my turn to intimidate people, right? No one's ever going to bully me again. So I'm going to bully people first. And what does that do? Right? It ruins friendships. It ruins relationships. It pushes people away from me. So the consequences that I face now is that the friends that I was making through the liquid courage are now like, dude, I want nothing to do with you. You're a jerk. So ultimately, this was my demise, right? At some point, I started doing drugs. I moved to Costa Rica where I am now. I started doing cocaine. And that just escalated the bullying and the intimidation to another level. I just turned into a monster and I rock bottomed out. And so ultimately what turned it around for me was my daughter when she was born. And I had a brand new reason for living, a brand new reason for fighting. I had a purpose in my life. She gave me purpose. She gave me a reason to live. And that's when I started doing the step work. So I joined Narcotics Anonymous. I joined a 12-step fellowship after she was born. And I just dug right in, and I started working the steps, and I got myself a sponsor. And within a year, I was already sponsoring guys.
So now my hope is that you'd have a good idea of what limiting beliefs are. And if you just simply separate the two words, limiting beliefs, it's a belief. It's what you believe based on the story you are telling yourself, based on an event that happened in your life that created an emotional response that ultimately created that story. So really, it's a limiting belief that was derived from a limiting decision. I chose to believe something. I chose to believe that I was a hero, that I was capable of taking care of my sister, of protecting my sister. And when it came down to it, and I got punched in the stomach, I made a decision to believe that, no, I'm not a hero. I'm actually weak, scared, and small. I can't protect my sister. I can't protect myself. I can't defend myself. And then when I was 16 years old and I drank alcohol for the first time, I made another decision because of how well it made me feel, how comfortable it made me feel in my own skin. I made a decision in that moment that alcohol was the solution, that alcohol was going to change my life. It was going to make my life better. It was a limiting decision that I chose to believe. And so for many years after that, we're talking 12 years of my life, that alcohol was the thing that gave me confidence, that made me feel self-assured, that made me feel fearless, that made me feel like I could stand up for myself. And I chose to believe that. And then when my daughter was born, I made yet another decision that I am going to do whatever it takes to become the man, the father, the individual, the leader that she can be proud of, that she deserves. I made a decision and I chose to believe that I could do it. So those are just 3 examples of how a limiting decision turns into a limiting belief. And those beliefs can be carried on for years. I am now 16 years clean and sober because I chose to believe that I could. And once I chose to believe that I could, and once my why was very, very clear, my purpose was very, very clear. So that's also very, very important when it comes to limiting beliefs as well. When your why, when your purpose is stronger than the belief systems that you have built to protect you and that now are destroying you, you will find a way. It's not about the how. It's about the why. I want to be a better man. I want to be a good father. I want to be an example for her. How do I do it? Do I go to therapy? Do I stop cold turkey? Do I move to another country? Do I join a 12-step fellowship? Do I go to rehab? Like all of a sudden, there are hows that present themselves. Some are completely ridiculous, but it forces me to create options in my mind. And what I chose was, I'm going to go to a 12-step fellowship. I'm going to follow their suggestions. Then I join and I get myself a sponsor and they say, work the steps. So I work the steps and I work those steps and I change radically and a new belief system forms. Wow, I can stay sober. I can be a better man. I can be a good father to my daughter. I can hold a job. I can be honest. And really what it all boils down to is that decision that you make in that moment. If you are able to recognize when you first started to believe this limiting belief about yourself, was it when you were 8 years old? Was it when you were 16 years old? Was it when you were 30 years old? Or was it all of the above? But if you're listening to this right now and you recognize that there have been times in your life where you made a decision to believe something, to believe that you can or believe that you can't, then let me assure you that you are absolutely right. Because whether you think you can or you think you can't, you are right. You are the one that makes the decision. You are the one that believes. So if there is something in your life that you want to go after, that you want to achieve, that you want to change, and the only thing holding you back is the story that you're telling yourself, then I want you to ask yourself, when did I decide to believe that I couldn't have what I wanted, that I couldn't change, or that I can't change what I want to change in my life? When did I decide that I wasn't deserving, that I wasn't worthy, that I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't smart enough, that I wasn't capable? When did I decide that I couldn't do that? And then ask yourself, is that still true? Was it ever true? For me, the first step in uncovering my limiting beliefs was joining a 12-step fellowship. And that served me well for over 10 years. And then when I knew that there was something more, that I wanted to go deeper, I hired a coach and I joined a mastermind community. And after I was done with my coach, which was 9 hours worth of coaching, I was able to rescript and reframe enough limiting beliefs in my life that allowed me and gave me the confidence to launch my own coaching practice. It was just that simple. I just had to get out of my own way. It's time for you to get out of your own way. Go find the people that are living the life that you want and ask them how they did it. Let that be your first step to eradicating your limiting beliefs. I hope that this mini course in limiting beliefs has helped you identify and at least understand where they come from and how easy it is to simply make a decision, to think differently, to choose differently, and to find the way through asking the right people and finding the right help for you. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me at www.omarpinto.com. Send me a message. I'd be more than happy to answer your questions, or feel free to set up a free consultation with me. I'd love to sit down and talk with you. Your life of happiness, fulfillment, and joy is just one decision away.